إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters, this is the second part of the refutation of Mohammad Yasir's first lecture about the true creed of the Salaf, the introduction. And inshallah, in the first part, I have shown that the madhab of the Salaf, Salihin, was not the madhab of Tafweez, because they gave the meaning of, they did tafsir of Allah's istiwa with different wordings. And they quoted this, I've quoted from all these books, they used the hadith of Jariyah, and they used it as a matter testifying to the good faith of Islam, like Abdul Qadir Jilani. And I've quoted all their sayings, about Imam Tirmidhi, about Allah's hand, is on believing in Allah's hand. It's only tashbih if we say hand like my hand, like Abdul Ghani Maqdisi said the same. And as well the fact that they linked to the hearing, seeing with the hand and other attributes. And also I have shown that that Ashraf Ali Thanvi and the others, they've admitted that the creed of the Salaf was to believe in hand, foot, and the late followers followed the way of the Jahmiyyah, which was to interpret hand as power. And from Fiqh al-Akbar of Mullah al-Qari as well, he said, Abu Hanifa, we should not do ta'wil of hand to mean power, like this is the belief of the Mu'tazila. And Mullah al-Qari explained it that the kayfiyah is known to Allah only. Like for the other attributes, meaning all attributes, hand, power, hand, they don't mean for some hearing and seeing. We don't know the kayfiyah. The meaning is known, for the other the meaning is unknown. So they have the same ruling for all the attributes. So now inshallah in the second part we will refute the claims of Muhammad Yasir made against Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. In the first part I've quoted that Ashraf Ali Thanvi attributed to Abdul Qadir Jilani a story, that he appointed an Abdal, and this Abdal this man was a Christian, and he just took him, broke his cross, make him Muslim. So I've quoted this story in my book, a critical analysis of the Sufi creed of the elders of the Deoband and Tablighi Jamaat, on page 84. And this saying is said by Ashraf Ali Thanvi in his Malfuzat, volume 3, saying number 41. And Ashraf Ali Thanvi wrote, one of the murid of Hazrat Ghaus-e Azam narrated the story. It was a very amazing story, probably. I have read it in a book of Sheikh Abdul Haq Muhaddis Delvi. And then he carries on, once Hazrat Ghaus woke up according to his habit for tahajjud, this and that. And then he carried on a story of, they went to Mosul, there was a group and the person died. And they brought so to replace this Abdal, meaning a great saint, they took a Christian from Rome and broke his cross and made him become Muslim. And this is totally ridiculous stories. And inshallah in my book I have detailed all the fairy tales about the naked saints having powers, and they believe that the insane people, Majzub, they rule the world, and they decide who is going to be the rulers. And the other Sufi way believes the black magic, or whatever. In my previous lectures I've shown Ashraf Ali Thanvi's book on the remedies from the Quran, in which he made a ta'weez, how to separate people, and he brought sihr, and the English translation is available. So when we refute someone, we show the scans and the proofs. You see the scans of Malfuzat is present on my website from the original book, so you can look at the scans as well. So this is the way of the scholars, like I've said before. We don't attribute people, we give the code, we say this is a wrong belief, this is our evidence. Okay? So people can judge the quote. And if we're wrong in the interpretation, that's something else. But we show the quote. So people can judge on their own if the claim match the dalil. You see, because if you say this one is anthropomorphism and you bring something that's not a proof of anthropomorphism, according, this is not, or the other one didn't claim such, but this is your own understanding. This is not what the other one said. So, inshallah, after I have shown that the early Asharis and they believed in the sifat of hand, like other the seeing and hearing, and Juwayni objected to them. You say, if you believe, because the early Asharis, they believe in hand face, but they didn't believe in nuzul and all those attributes, Allah's coming on judgment day, because for them this implied movements. But they believed in those attributes of Allah's essence, like hand face, and he criticized them, Juwayni. And even Juwayni, at the end of his life, he became a mufawwid. He said, I have died upon the creed of the old woman. Because Kalam, I mean, many people of the Kalam, they become so much in doubt about everything that this is the big fitna, doubting about the attributes of Allah. Ibn Safwan, he's starting to doubt about Allah because he can't see, he can't speak, and then he did all the attributes. He denied them with this logic and the Greek philosophy and debating the Christians, and the Christian had these doubts about attributes. They took from the Greek philosophy, Aristotelian, Platonian views, and when the Christian debated these people, then they had doubts, and this. So they describe Allah as, like Imam Zahabi said, as the non-existing, the attributes these people are giving. So obviously, I have shown that the mazhab of Deoband in the Muhammad, they say, okay, we do believe as these are the attributes of Allah, but without attributing kayf. But what the late scholars did in interpreting istiwa as istila, conquering, and hand by power, for us these are correct and permissible interpretations. And Ashraf Ali Thanwi said that this is the tawil of the Jamia, but the late scholars followed this Mubtadi'ah because there was a need. I mean, I don't know what need people will have to follow Jahmiyyah, but it's up to the Deobandis to follow the mazhab of the Jahmiyyah, mazhab of the Salaf. And what is really strange, because the Deobandis, I've quoted Mufti Muhammad Shafi doing ta'wil of hand of power, the hand of Allah to mean his power, is Maulana Shabir Usmani in his tafsir of the Quran. I have the English translation of Muhammad Ashfaq Ahmad Islamic Book Service. It's volume 1, page 501. In Surah Maida, when the Jews said Allah's hands are closed, fettered, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied to them, let their hands be fettered and cursed be at the searching. No, both his hands are outspread. You see, بَلْ يَدَاهُ مَبْسُوطَتَانِ يُنْفِقُ كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. So, Maulana Shabir Uthmani, I mean, it's a point of thinking for the Deobandis. He wrote a note, wherever the hand, foot, eye, etc. of God is described, it must never be imagined that God has physical organs like man. Okay, nobody believes in Allah having attributes like human being. And this is Tashbih. Imam Isaq ibn Rahawa said, as quoted in Tirmizi, Tashbih is only, innama, when you say hand, my hand, hearing, like my hearing. So then he carry God is pure, he's above physical, he has no hands, foot, as human beings have. As the self-being, knowledge, etc. of God is matchless and has no equal, similarly the divine hand, divine foot, divine eye are unique, have no equal or parallel, and do not have any physical form. So now he's saying, like his self-being is like the essence is matchless, similarly the divine hand, the divine foot, divine eye are unique and have no equal or parallel. They figuratively represent the different attributes of God for easy understanding. Then he carries on, his attribute of knowledge, hearing, seeing are befitting his glorious self and are far above from our reflection. So, you see, so first he said that like the essence of Allah has no similarity, likewise his divine hand, divine foot, and divine eye are unique, have no equal. That is, the figure represent the different attributes of God for easy understanding. Man cannot fully understand divine attributes in purely abstract terms. Hence, abstraction is sometimes reflected into objective reality to remove obscurity. Then he mentioned a poem of Sheikh Sadi. Then he said, verily God is beyond idea, beyond conception, and even perception. His attributes are also beyond perception and conception. So he's speaking about all his attributes. What we conceive is the creation of mind. What we perceive is the action of senses. What we think is our own thought. God is unlimited and infinite. I mean, unlimited, we will see the Salaf use the word bihadin, that Allah is above his arsh and his essence is limited. Obviously, the power and others, they're limited. He cannot come within the bounds of mortal creation. His attribute of knowledge, hearing, seeing are befitting his glorious self and are far from our reflection and description. So now we can see that he himself, he is speaking about all the attributes. You see, he's not saying it's only for the divine food, for the divine eye. He's saying it for the self-being knowledge of God. You see, or for the self-being knowledge of God is matchless. Likewise, his divine hand, divine food are unique and have no equal or parallel. So the people of Tafwiz, I'm asking them according to the speech of their Sheikh al-Islam, Shabir Usmani, when they say Allah's knowledge, you see, Alam al-Ghuyub, do they say we don't know the meaning of Alam? We don't know Allah, Kulli Shayn Alim, we don't know what Alim means? So he's saying as the self-being knowledge of God is matchless, there's no equality. Like one, the divine hand, divine foot, divine eye. And then he carries on his attribute of knowledge, hearing, seeing, are befitting his glorious self and are far above our reflection. So he's put all this attribute of knowledge, hearing, seeing, divine hand, divine foot, divine eye in the same place. So if, people who said the Salaf, people who believe in Tafwid, this statement of Shabir Ahmad Uthmani goes against them, because he's put all these attributes in the same place and the same way of understanding them, you know. He says in the same way as knowledge, in the same way for the divine hand, and this is what the Salafs, this is according to what Ishaq ibn Rahawa said. You see, the hand, the foot, and sama, they're all the same attributes. The Salaf put them together, Abdul Ghani put them together, the Raqutni put them together and said that we all understand them without, in quoting the speech of Abu Ubaid al-Qasim ibn Salam, we all understand them without kayf. You see? So they put all the attributes together, and then they give the ruling for all the attributes. In the same way, they don't discern some attributes from others, you know. While the later scholars, obviously, they believe hearing, seeing, late Asharis, but for first ones, they do ta'wil, and this is the problem, you know. This is the problem. So now, inshallah, we will carry on to the book Al-Ihtisam, because Muhammad Yasir tried to quote some general speech from it to say that the attributes of Allah are mutashabihat and this and that, but he didn't quote fully the speech of Shatibi, Imam Shatibi, who was died in 790, so he's a late Maliki scholar, a great Ibrahim ibn Musa al-Shatibi. So he said in the English translation, Dar Qutub Ilmiya, page 210, a chapter on deviation from the clear fundamentals. He said they also, meaning the innovators, they also deviate from clear fundamentals to follow the unclear and imprecise issues in which minds have a share of attitude and act upon it by way of interpretation. In confirmation of what Allah Almighty refers in his saying to the Trinity claimed by the Christian, so as for those in whose hearts there is deviation, they follow that which is entirely clear thereof, seeking discord and seeking its interpretation. Surah Imran verse 7. And then he carries on. It is well known among the scholars that any evidence which is unclear and abstruse could hardly be considered a real evidence until its meaning becomes clear and precise, on condition that it should not oppose by any foundation established with full certainty. Okay, so obviously any unclear text has to be explained in the light of the clear text. Unless its meaning seems clear and precise due to generality, commonness, and opposition to foundation established with full certainty, it will not be considered an evidence at all. You see, if it's opposing the foundation, something unclear will not be approved. Okay. The real nature of evidence requires that it should be clear in itself. Oh, yes. An obvious indication to the issue, otherwise it will need another evidence to prove it. If the other evidence indicates that it is not authentic, then it should rather not be regarded as evidence at all. By no means could the detailed issue oppose the universal fundamental. This is because if the details issues interacting, then the straight path requires to return to the fundamental, which includes the details issue up to the universal principle. Whoever does the reverse of that will transgress beyond the limits and become condemned by the Sharia. The followers of the unclear and imprecise is condemned, meaning those who follow the mutashabihat are condemned. How then should the precise and clear be taken for evidence for basis on which judgment and rulings are established? Okay. If they are unfit for evidence, then they should rather be considered invented religious innovations. Okay. Look at what examples he's quoting after. A typical example for this is the false claim of a group of people that the Holy Quran is created, attaching the argument to imprecise meaning, which is in their allegation reasoning independent and hearing reliant. As for the reasoning dependency, the speech is one of the attributes, and the divine essence in their sight is free of composition in general. And they affirm that any attribute to the essence is a kind of self-composition, which is impossible at all. He's absolutely one who could not speak with an independent speech, in the same way as he could be neither competent with an independent power nor knowing with an independent knowledge the end of the series of attributes. So basically, Imam Shatibi, he's saying those who follow the mutashabihat, he's referring to the Mu'tazili, those who deny that Allah can speak. And they say, oh, if the meaning of speech, it will mean independent. You see, this is the Mu'tazila, they call themselves people of Tawhid, because for them, establishing another attribute means a partner with Allah. So when he's saying the people who follow the mutashabihat regarding the verses, he's speaking about the Mu'tazilis. He says, furthermore, the speech could be understood only through sounds and letters and attribute characteristics of the newly invented things beyond which Allah rightly is transcendent, meaning the Mu'tazila. They say, oh, speech must be with sounds and Allah is free of it. Nevertheless, to support their claim, they force upon them the difficulty of interpreting Allah's statement, and to Moses, Allah spoke directly according to their doctrine. So, okay. As for the hearing dependent is concerned, you see, they said the Quran is created based on the verse, Allah is the creator of all things. The Quran is either a thing or nothing, and nothing means non-existence. Whereas the Quran is existent. So they say Allah is the creator of everything, the Quran is something. So the Quran, being a thing, it is included in the holy verse, which means that it is created. This is the attestation presented by Al-Marizi to Abdulaziz Al-Makki. That they left a basic rule is shown in their failure to consider the statement of Allah Almighty, there is nothing whatever like unto him, laysa kamithlihi shay. So they left this clear verse and they went to the other one. You know, it is indeed a reasoning, hearing dependent evidence that is because what is similar to creature in any point whatsoever is a creature like him. As what is due to a thing should be due also to anything created like. As well as the holy verse is evidence for negation of resemblance, it's also an evidence for those who in deeming his traces and deal with him like a creature. So he's saying this, the mistake of these people is they treat Allah like the creation. You see, the attribute of Allah like the attribute of the creation. When they falsely think that his possessing attributes require self-composition, you know. So for these people, Shatibi criticizes these people for following mutashabihat, those who deny the Quran, and then he carries on. that the discarded or disclosed meaning lies in the fact that from Allah saying He's the all-hearing, all-seeing, He's the all-hearing, all-knowing, He's the omnipotent, and the likes, the Arab understand that it refers to the one who has hearing, seeing, and knowledge, and omnipotence, and that he possesses those attributes. To shift those from the real meanings with which the Quran was revealed is indeed to deviate from the foundations of the book, to follow only the improvised and not entirely clear thereof, with no need. So he's saying the Mu'tazili who denied Allah's seeing, Allah hearing, Allah being omnipotent, these attributes, they use the mutashabihat to deny this. And he said that Arabs understand that it refers to one who has hearing, seeing, and knowledge. So the meanings of the attributes are known. You see, Imam Shatibi did not say the meanings of attributes, nobody knows them but Allah. They're mutashabihat. No, for him, the attributes are known. You see, what he's saying is some verses they should be understood with the others, and when combined together, the unclear become clear. You see, he said if they understood the Allah spoke to Moses and they joined it with a verse, Laysa kamithlihi shay, there wouldn't be any problem. But their problem is they failed to consider the other verse. There is nothing whatever like unto him. This is why they denied Allah speaking to Musa. So he carries on speaking about the Mu'tazili's rejection of Allah's attribute of hearing, seeing, speaking, with their using some verses saying, oh, if this will mean Allah's composite body, this will mean this and that, and he criticized them for the wrong use of the Quran. At the end of the book, it's really the last pages of Al-I'tisam, page 601. He speaks against the philosophers and Jahmiyyah and others who deny miracles, Mu'tazili who deny miracles and others. And he says on page 601 of the English translation, when the prophets brought the supernatural events, meaning the miracles, mu'jizat, like turning the staff into a snake, dividing the sea into two, giving life to dead, healing the blind and leper, the spring of water from between fingers, communicating with stones and trees, splitting of the moon, they were denied by those who insisted not to go behind what is natural and thought them to be out of magic or sorcery. Many are those supernaturals which seems impossible in terms of reason, but since they were brought by the prophets, peace be upon them, they proved to be possibly beyond reason, just as possible for one to turn from existence to non-existence, you know. So he's mentioning the karamat and these people, Mu'tazila philosophers and Jahmiyyah's denial of karamat. And then he carried on, page 602, in the same way, if you look at the denizens of hellfire, those who deny the hellfire, because the Mu'tazila and the others, they denied, you see, the reality of the philosophers, Ibn Sina and others, not the Mu'tazila. Denizen of the hellfire, may Allah save us from it, you find many, like those abnormal events, such as the fact that the fire that burns him never devours him to death, as confirmed by Allah, he will neither die therein nor live. The remaining states in which they are is thus supernatural, in which they are thus supernatural. Then he carries on. You see about those who reject these miracles. The other is that some news are brought in Sharia which require to break the rule of the course of natural events, meaning the natural laws, the miracles are khalq al-adat. They break the natural laws al-adat. It is not fit for the mind to deny that absolutely. It is up to it to treat it with one of the two. So you see, he said you should treat this miracle with one of the two. One, to give trust to it and entrust the knowledge of it to the one who knows it. He said we should believe in it and leave its knowledge to Allah, in confirmation to what seems clear from the statement of Allah. But those firm in knowledge say we believe in it all of it is from Allah. Meaning the precise and entirely clear as well as the imprecise, meaning the muhkam and the mutashabihat, both of them, they should believe in them. It is not due on him to know it, and had it been, you see, it is not up to him to know the kayfiyah of these miracles, but he should believe in them. So then he carries on. Now let us clarify. He said, as such, we should deal with all the attributes of Allah. He said, in the same way of the miracles, this is how we should deal with all the attributes, meaning not only with hand, foot, and qadam, but seeing, hearing, all attributes. With all the attributes Allah Almighty gives to Himself. Whoever denies them reject that they should be like the attributes of the creatures. Meaning the people who deny the attributes, like the Jahmiyyah, Mu'tazila, and obviously the Asharis, they deny that the attributes of Allah should be like the attribute of creation. And that is not the opinion of majority, meaning the opinion of the majority is to affirm the attributes. There remains only the dispute over the negation or affirmation of the attributes themselves. The affirmer, meaning the one who affirms the attributes, affirms them on the condition to reject the resemblance. Meaning those who accepted the attributes, meaning the majority, the Ahl Sunnah, they accept it with the condition to reject the resemblance. Whereas the rejecter who rejects that there should be an attribute not like the attribute of the rejects to affirm anything not habitual. Meaning the one who rejects, for him it cannot be that Allah can have an attribute different from creation and different from what is habitual. For him, if there's an attribute hand, it must be hand like creation. If Allah can hear, it must be. For them, they can't. It doesn't come in their weak intelligences. Now let us clarify the impossibility of giving man the authority of arbitration over the Sharia with 10 examples. He's saying it is impossible to give the mind authority over the arbitration over the Sharia. It's the Sharia, the religious text, they should have superiority to intelligence. It's not the Mu'tazili, the Jahmi, or the Ash'ari's intelligence that should rule over the text. So he's giving 10 examples. The first is the matter of the sirat, the bridge. Upon it is well established fact and crossing, it is mentioned by the lawgiver. Of course, we could give trust to that, but it is sharp as the sword, and then how could man walk firmly on it? However, the habit may possibly be broken in a way that could enable man to walk firmly on it. So he said, this is his example. First, the sirat, then the balance, meaning the scale of deeds. It could prove to be a correct balance in the hereafter, with which deeds are weighted extraordinarily. Third one, the torment of the grave, and this is easier. So, do you see how it would be the dead experience the dead agony? Tell us about the severe expense he's suffering, even though no trace of this is visible upon him. He says no trace of punishment are visible on the dead, but he's suffering. So why should we allow for the mind to stand against the trust in the statement of the messenger of the Prophet? He said, why should we give priority to the mind? The mind says, oh look, the dead body I've taken from the grave, there is no signs of punishment. But yes, there are punishment, because the Prophet told about the punishment of the grave. Likewise, the angel asking the dead in the grave. Likewise, the scattering of the books. Making organs speak. Like on judgment day, the organs will speak, giving witness. The possibility of the vision of Allah. Number 8, the speech of Allah. Number 9, the affirmation of the attribute, just like the speech. You know. And then he give mind authority of Allah Almighty. So he mentions all these 10 cases where you should believe in this stuff. So in the same way you should believe in the attributes. You see, the 90 affirmation of attributes, just like speech, they are denied by those who have their own understanding of the constitution of the divine essence, according to which he could not be only one in case they are affirmed to him, that is understanding of the mind which is proven short in perception of the creatures. It is more right to affirm the attribute what is affirmed by the Creator to himself, and at the same time affirm his oneness absolutely. So he's speaking about the vision of Allah, about the scale, the sirat, the punishment of the grave, the miracles. All of this follow the same rules for him. You see, that the kayfiyah, would the Mohammad, Yasir and the others say, oh no, the meaning of scale, the meaning of punishment grave, the meaning of the staff turning into snake, we don't know what it means, only Allah. No. When he said only Allah knows the reality of them, and we affirm the attributes. And then he wrote, there are many traditions indicative of the fact that the predecessors never gave their minds the authority of arbitration concerning Allah's attributes and religious beliefs. Meaning the Salaf, they did not give arbitration on intelligence over Allah's attributes and religious being. Then he quoted many sayings of the Salaf, Ibn Abd al-Bar, Imam Malik, speaking against Rai, speaking against Ilm al-Kalam. Yunus ibn Abdullah said, Shafi told me when Hafs al-Far debated with him, O Abu Musa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means a servant having committed all sins except shirk, polytheism, is better for him than to meet him having believed in anything of scholastic theology kalam. No doubt. I heard from Hafs word which I could not repeat. He said, you should come with Allah with all sins, drinking, zina, khamr, all the stealing, gambling, all the sins, except shirk, is better than to believe in ilm al-kalam. Then he carried on about the belief of the Salaf. The man, he quoted from Ibn Wahab, the men of independent opinions, Ahlul Rai, are the enemies of the Sunnah. The Sunnah was too difficult upon them to memorize and skim so much that they failed to comprehend as it should be. Therefore, you see, they left the Sunnah. According to the scholars, the opinion condemned in the tradition mentioned above address the invented religious innovation in the creed, like the opinions of Abu Jahm and other scholastic theologians. So he said all the Salaf, when they criticize the people of Kalam, who function their knowledge and mind to reject Hadith. They went as far as to say that it is impossible for anyone to see Allah in the hereafter. Depending on the Quranic statement of Allah Almighty, no vision can grasp him, but his grasp is over all vision. They also said it is impossible for the dead to be questioned in the grave due to the specter of Allah. They will say, our Lord, twice you have made us. They will say, our Lord, twice you have made us without life, and twice you have given us life. Now have we recognized our sin. Is there any way out of this? Thus they rejected the hadith, the contiguous hadith narrated about the punishment of the grave, affliction of the grave, and also about the intercession. They argue no one who enters the fire will come out of it. They said that there is neither a lake, font, hold, there is no balance of deed scale, nor could they perceive any of those with their mind. Then he carries on. According to Al-Awza'i Makul Zuri, you see, they all quoted from of the Salaf condemning Ilm al-Kalam and about the attribute that should be left. Take the hadiths as they were brought, do not debate each other over them. The same is handed down from Malik, Sufyan, Ibn Sa'id, Ibn Aina, Muhammad ibn Rashid. They took the hadith of Allah's divine attributes and those of the faith, Qadar, and they were brought to the Prophet. And the statement of Malik is regarding asking of the way of Allah's establishment, meaning Istiwa, is famous in this. So this is the last pages of Al-Iqtisam Shatibi, and we see what, when he quoted Al-Mutashabihat, he didn't want to deny Allah having head, but he said for all the attributes is the same as belief in the miracle, same as the belief in the scale, meaning we believe in the meaning of them. We leave the kayfiyah to Allah, which is understood from this easily. So now on, we will carry on, because these people, they deny Allah having these people, there is Muhammad Yasir, may Allah guide him. He says we shouldn't establish aqidah with mutashabihat and others, and quoted Shatibi for this. But the Deobandi should realize their conditions, because these people established their aqidah with fairy tales. I've quoted already the story of Abd al-Qadir Jilani going to Mosul, bringing Christian from Rome, and breaking his cross and making him an abdal. This is a hikayah, a story, a fairy tale. And what about the books filled with batini, hidden knowledge, and all the other stuff? I already quoted the book Irshad al-Muluk, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. It's a translation of Imdad al-Suluk, a detailed treatise on Tasawwuf, originally in the Farsi language by Hadrat Sheikh Maulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. page 59 of this book. I mean, they should realize what kind of, this is not mutashabihat, this is khurafat. He says, similarly, some of the knowledge of Rasulullah in general is both for the elite and the laity awam, like the knowledge of the commands and prohibition. On the other hand, some of his knowledge is exclusive only for the khawas, meaning some of the knowledge of the Prophet is only for the elite. Na'udhu billah, it's a batini religion. Ismaili, Qaramita, Ikhwan al-Safa. Hence, Sahib al-Sir, the companion of secret Huzaifa, Hazrat Huzaifa Yamani, radiallahu anhu, was instructed in such a knowledge. Hazrat Ali said, radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah taught me 70 such avenues of knowledge which he did not indicate to others. There's no reference of this fabricated hadith. 70 avenues of knowledge he did not indicate to others. This is the creed of the Shia. Na'udhu billah. Certain knowledge has not been revealed even to the Khawas. Such special knowledge was awarded only to Rasulullah sallallahu. Na'udhu billah. What lies? The Prophet never hidden anything beneficial for us in the hereafter. So this is to remind these people who speak. We can't take the speech of the Salaf, how they believe in the Hadith al-Jariyah. This is mutashabihat Hadith Jariyah. When they said Musafiran mutashabihat, no, mutashabihat. They said you believe in hand Imam Tirmizi mutashabihat. But this, no, al-Batiha, tasawwuf, na'udhu billah. Hidden treasures. This is Ganjina Asrar, Anwar Shah Kashmiri. Hidden treasures. All these numbers to cures, all these letters. This is not mutashabihat, these tables with these numbers. Does Imam Abu Hanifa taught them this? Imam Abu Hanifa is free of these fake Hanafis and the Batini hidden Ibn Arabi knowledge. Imam Abu Hanifa never believed in Batini knowledge. He was a great Imam of the Salaf. MashaAllah, he was free of all these khurafat, and in the book Al-Ibriz of Abdulaziz Dabar, the Braille video, when they both have translated into Urdu, and the book of Ibriz, I already made many lectures on it. They believe the Ghaus Qutb Abdal gathered in a cave of Hira, and they decide in it, some dead companions and prophets comes as well, and they decide in it whatever's going to happen tomorrow. And not only on the earth, on the 7, constellation in the world of Raqqa, the people who live there, they can't have a thought in their minds except with the permission of the people of this Divan, a fake assembly of saints. So this is Star Wars. I don't know how. I don't know what kind of hallucination these people are open. They established this Divan with the Ghaus Qutb Abdal, deciding whatever's going to happen tomorrow. They translate these books. They sell these books upon the name of Islam, this Batini religion. They believe, Ashraf Ali Thanvi, it is mentioned in my book, I've got scans and I will put links to it, that the Majzub insane people, they control, they're given the matters of taqween in their hands. Ashraf Ali Thanvi mentioned in his Malfuzat, Ishraqi Sahab told me that the Majzub people disputed among themselves whether they should keep the British Empire in India or not. So whether the British were to remain in power was to be decided by these insane people. So this is their, nothing to do with the Hadith of Sifat and Hadith al-Jariyah and the books of the Salaf, which clearly Abdul Qadir Jilani and all these scholars of the Ghani Maqdisi, and you have the Kitab Tawheed Ibn Abdul Bar and all these, using the Hadith al-Jariyah, using the Hadith, the other sayings of Pharaoh, and saying, yes, you should ask where is Allah is correct. No, mutashabihat. But this Batini knowledge and these stories of naked saints controlling the world and Majzub people, Ibriz, and all this Batini Khalwa, Bay'ah, I've already shown that these people claim to be muqallidin of Imam Abu Hanifa. But for the Bay'ah, why did Imam Abu Hanifa, which book Imam Abu Hanifa they told to do Bay'ah? You know, they've got a book about the truths about Bay'ah. They only have hadith about the people doing Bay'ah to the Prophet. You are Hanafi Muqallidin, you don't have Quwa Ijtihad. Why you don't bring us things of Imam Abu Hanifa doing Bay'ah? Same in this book, they have Khalwa, you should hide in the room, the room should be like this, the window should not be like this. This is a matter of worship. Who gave you permission for these rooms? You have Batini, this is what they said, there's a hidden knowledge in the Khanqahs that only told to few people. Abu Hanifa, did he make Khalwa? Did he hide in these rooms? Which of his books, or books of his student, Kitab al-Athar and the others, which of his book tell us he told us to do? Sit on graves, do muraqab on graves, ask the dead, do kashf al-qubur, and all the things they do, and we have shown scans already. But this is not mutashabih. For them, this is ilm al-yaqeen. You see, wahdat wujud and tasawwuf. This is ilm al-yaqeen for them. Khidr being alive and all these people. I mean, the dead coming back, Qasim Nanotwi coming back, Ashraf al-Thani's father coming back. Well, even the Maturidi scholars have already shown in his Bahrul Kalam, he said the creed at the end, for half-time, the dead coming back is the creed of the Shia, who believe that Ali will come back. And he quoted the verse of the Quran, the dead cannot come back. But for them, Qasim Nanotwi comes back to settle a dispute after his death. The Prophet came many times to Darul Deoban. He learned Urdu from them. I mean, even, the Maturidi, they don't follow it properly, because even according to Maturidi, you see, the life in the grave of the Prophet is contrary to the life of this world. Muhammad Hussein Elvi, in his book Nida al-Haq, he's shown all the sayings of the scholars that the hayat of the Prophets in the grave is barzakh, is not a hissi life similar to the laws of this world. And Muhammad Hussein Elvi, he's a great Mamati scholar. And he quoted many of the Maturidi scholars, and I've got one of Shurun Bulali here, and he quoted many others. Shurun Bulali said in his book Ascent of Felicity, which is an explanation of Nur al-Lida by Faraz Khan, translated, Maraqi Sa'adat, Shara Nur al-Lida. It is written in page 34 of the English translation. Similarly, prophets and messengers are actual prophets and messengers after their death. Meaning that this is because that which is actually possesses the attribute of prophethood or belief is the spirit which does not change with death. So, the early Asharis and Maturidis, they had this debate. Is the Prophet a prophet actually or not? Ibn Hazm, in his book, Al-Fasl, he made takfir of Ibn Furak and others because they said the Prophet was a prophet before. Now his death, he's not a prophet. And he declared him kafir for his statement. He said, why in the Azan we say Muhammad Rasulullah and you said Prophet was a prophet and is no more prophet? So this was some early Asharis, Ibn Furak. Ibn Hazm attribute this to him and does takfir of him for these issues. But the Maturidi and Ashari had this dispute. The saying of the Asharis after was that the Prophet is a prophet hukman. And this is mentioned in Bahrul Kalam. That hukman, out of hukman, he is a prophet. But for the Maturidi view, it is the Prophet is still a prophet because that which possesses the attribute of prophethood, nubuwa, or belief, is the spirit, the ruh, which does not change with death. You see, so for them, professors, if the Prophet was alive in his grave in the same manner as he was alive before, they would say, no, the Prophet is still a prophet because he's alive. He's just hiding in his room, like the Shia believe their Imam is hiding in the tunnel. But they didn't say this. They said, no, because prophethood is linked to the soul and the soul does not change. And Muhammad Hussain Elvin quoted many of the books of Aluzi and the Maturidi scholars saying this. So they even don't follow the Maturidi scholars. For them, the prophets are alive like they were alive before. They have the same life. They do come sometimes. They do meet people, give them instructions. And so these people, that's the problem with them. They follow the greatest of mutashabihat. And they tell us not to follow Hadith Jariyah, not to follow the books of the Salaf. So now, Muhammad Yasir quoted something from Ghazali. that all the people who have the mushabbiha, they imagine Allah in the brain. I have the book with me, Ghazali, The Niche of Lights, Mishkat al-Anwar. And I've already read this in one of my lectures. He also believes in hidden knowledge, Ghazali. So for them, you shouldn't take mutashabihat, but Ghazali is fine. He's not taking, let's see what Ghazali is taking from. He says on page 2, one of the Gnostic has said to divulge the mystery of lordship is unbelief. Ifsha sirru rububiyya kufr. Indeed, the master of the first and last, the Prophet said, there is a kind of knowledge like the guise of the hidden. None knows it except the knowers of Allah. When they speak of it, none denies it except those who are arrogantly deluded about God. So they believe in hidden knowledge. At the end of this book, Abu Hamid Ghazali, when he mentioned the people, the philosophers and all, they believed in the first element. The first element gave al-aqla awal, you see, the first intelligence. He gave motion to the others, and this is how for them Allah controls the universe. For the philosophers, they had this system of belief. And he says all these people are wrong, the star worshippers, the philosophers. And he said those who, you see, because they believed in aqla awal, which is an element for them who control the universe from its emanation, the faith, the universe works. And he says on page 51 at the end of the book, the right group, those who have arrived, are only of the fourth type. To them it has been disclosed that the one who is obeyed is described by an attribute that contradicts sheer oneness and utmost perfection. This belongs to a mystery which is beyond the capacity of this book to unveil. So I'm going to read it in Arabic. وإنما الواصلون صنف الرابع تجلى لهم أيضا أن هذا المتاع متاع is the one obeyed in the heavens. متاع ثم أمين. For them the mutah, you see, it's not the angel, it is a cosmological element. So that the aqla, the first intellect, and the Sufis like Haqi and the others, Jami and the others in the Sharf Usus Hikam, they said the aqla, they used the words aqla wal, and Ismail Haqi Effendi also said that aqla wal is Ruh Muhammadi and Nur Muhammadi for the Sufis. So this muta, which normally for the Sufi is the aqla wal, Nur Muhammadi and light, موصوف أن هذا المتع موصوف بصفات تنافي الوحدانية المحضة. This muta is described with attributes which denies pure wahdaniyat, the pure unity of Allah. وكمال بالغ للسر لا تحتمل هذا الكتاب كشفه. So this is their creed, that the aqla awal Nur Muhammadi, it has an attribute which denies al-wahdaniyat al-mahdha, pure, translated as pure, sheer oneness, pure oneness of Allah. Na'udhu billah. This is, Ibn Taymiyyah wrote a book, I guess, this book, Mishkat al-Bughyatul Murtad, in which he refuted Ibn Sabani, Ibn Arabi and Ghazali. And many scholars, Maziri, Wahanshiri, and many others, they criticized that Ghazali first was very good against the Batini and the philosophers, the Hafut al-Falsafa, Fadai al-Batiniya. But after entering Sufism, isolating, he's starting to take their doctrine. And also in his Risala la Dunya have in English, he says this, that the first intelligence from its emanation, the people or the saints obtain ilham and ilm ladunni. So you see, the aql al-awwal, he took this from Ibn Sina and the philosophers. Dr. Salah in his book Zam al-Hawa in English, he quoted, page 79, he quoted from Ghazali, is Ihya Ulumuddin, volume 1, page 100. Ghazali said some of them, meaning the Sufi, said, there is a secret to al-Rububiyah. If it is disclosed, the prophethood will be annulled, cancelled. Prophethood, Nubuwah will be cancelled. It's only if the secret of Rububiyah, same, he said, if Yasir Rububiyah kufr. And the prophethood had a secret, if it is revealed, knowledge will become null. And that is secret with those scholars who have knowledge of Allah, which if they would disclose the laws would be annulled, cancelled. The laws will be cancelled if they disclose the secrets, na'udhu billah. I mean, I can't understand this, but this is the batin. These are the Imams. Ibn Taymiyyah, Mujassim, Ghazali, no Imam, Hujjah, Islam, hidden knowledge. Prophet hidden knowledge. Secrets, if his laws are cancelled, there's a mutah. Tunafi al-wahdaniyya mahda. No, this is good, aqidah, this is good. Na'udhu billah. Now we will come to the quotes brought by Muhammad Yasir against Shaykh al-Islam Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah, which Mullah al-Qari described as from the saints of the Ummah. And inshallah, if I have time, I will read fully the explanation, how Ibn Taymiyyah's tafsir, to which Ibn Hajar al-Thami objected, did not have anything wrong. And all the scholars, they say it has no wrong meaning. Because Ibn Taymiyyah explained it that when Allah, the Prophet touched, when Allah touched the Prophet's chest, the Prophet to honor this place, he put like his turban and he put it there. You see, like a tie. So you see, he put it like his turban here in the middle to honor this place. This is Tashim, and Mullah al-Qais, there's no Tashim. Munawi said there's no Tashim in it. This is only a tafsir. You see, he didn't attribute this word to hadith, he only explained it, and the hadith said that Allah put his hand on his chest and he could feel the coolness. So he only gave this word as he said this is badi explanation, this is from a good explanation. You see, we'll see, if we have in detail, but there's no Tashim in Ibn Taymiyyah's explanation of the hadith of Tirmidhi. So now the first quote in which he said, Muhammad Yasir said, Ibn Taymiyyah believed Allah has limbs. This is in volume 3, page 86, because he gave the reference to his own books, but one should give reference to considering the Saudi print. So if you have an Egyptian print or others, you shouldn't give the page at the bottom, you should give the Saudi print so it's easier to find it. Because the Saudi is easy. This was the first publication, and all publication after refer to this one. So it's volume 3, page 87. So Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَالْكَبَدُ وَالتَّحَالِ. So the kabad is the liver and the spleen. وَنَحْوَ ذَلِكَ هِيَ الْأَعْضَاء لِلْأَكْلِ وَالْشُرْبِ. These are the organs for eating and drinking. والغني منزه عن ذلك منزه عن آلات ذلك. So Allah, the Al-Ghani, the rich, Al-Munazzih عن ذلك, he is rich from this. Munazzih and آلات ذلك, free of the organs of this, of the instrument, recipients of this. بخلاف اليد فإنها للعمل والفعل. Contrary to the hand, which is for actions, for acting and for doing an action. So what he quoted was, you see, he didn't read the Arabic word and he made it golmul. You see, he left it open. Ibn Taymiyyah never said that the yad is a'da. He never used this word. Rather, he said the liver and the spleen and others they are the organs. These are the organs for eating everything. Allah is purified from these organs, contrary to the hand. You see, meaning Allah is purified from these organs, contrary to the hand. Allah is not purified from it. You see, but Ibn Taymiyyah didn't say the hand is an organ. You see, because this was Ibn Taymiyyah denies them. You see, the rule Ibn Taymiyyah is for all the new words that don't come in Quran Hadith, we don't affirm them. This is the Ibn Taymiyyah said in many places of his books. All the attributes Allah did not, except for the tafsir. If the Salaf did the tafsir, istiwatu min ala, istiqrar, this is tafsir of Salaf, we accept it. But for an attribute, you see, using word like a'dha, jism, tahiyyuz, and all these others, tarkib, and we don't affirm this. All the things that Allah didn't affirm for himself. So Ibn Taymiyyah did not say Allah has organ of hand. No. He said Allah, these organs, they are for eating, the liver and the spleen, they are organs for eating and drinking. Allah is free from them, and the receiving from Allah, contrary to the hand, meaning He didn't say contrary to the organ of the hand, you know. He said He's free from it contrary to the hand, from which He's not free, because purified, because Allah has a hand, because it is for acting and doing an action. وَهُوَ مَوْصُوفٌ بِالْعَمَلِ وَالْفِعْلِ. So what Ibn Taymiyyah said, Allah is free from these organs, but He's not free from the hand, which is for action and eating. And Allah is described with action and fi'l. وَإِذَا ذَاكَ مِنْ صِفَاتِ كَمَالٍ فَمَنْ يَقْدُرُ يَفْعَلُ أَكْمَلُ مِمَّنْ لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَى الْفِعْلِ. The one who can do an action is more complete than the one who cannot do. Then he carries on. وَهُوَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى مُنَزِّهٌ عَنْ صَاحِبِهِ وَوَلَدٍ. He is free from a companion and a child. وَنَنْ أَلَى ذَلِكَ, and from the instruments of this, وَأَسْبَابِهِ, and the causes of it. وَكَذَلِكَ الْبُكَاء وَالْحُزْنُ, crying, and وَهُوَ مُسْتَلْزِمُ الضُّعْفِ وَالْعَجْزِ. This, because this necessitates weakness and impowerness. الذي ينزه عنه, from which he is free. بخلاف الفرح والغضب فإنه من صفات الكمال. You see? So he said Allah is free from the having a child and from the instruments leading to it, contrary to joy and anger, because they are from the sifat al-kamal. So like يوصف بالقدرة دون العجز وبالعلم دون الجهل وبالحياة دون الموت وبالسمع دون الصمام وبالبصر دون العمي وبالكلام دون البكم وذلك يوصف بالفرح دون الحزن وبالضحك دون البكاء ونحو ذلك. So in no places Ibn Taymiyyah said in words Allah has the organ of the hand. He said Allah is purified from these organs, contrary to hand, because it is for action, and he's described with this. So he's saying Allah is purified from it, from these organs. I mean, it's clear. I mean, I don't know why they didn't read it and made a fuss about it. Now we'll come to the attributes of sitting. Abdul Qadir Jilani in his Ghunyat Talibin denies the attribute of Qu'ud, Allah sitting upon the Arsh, but he was not aware, and obviously if he was to be aware that Imam Ahmad and the Salaf used this word, Imam Daraqutni, he would not have denied it in his Ghunyat Talibin, but obviously no scholar is free from ghafla. So Yasir attributed to Ibn Taymiyyah some saying without quoting it from. It is present in Majmu' Fatawa. It is volume 16, page 436, volume 16. He says, likewise, because you have to read then refute, because this is the way of the scholars. You quote and then you refute. You show the scans, then you refute. So people can judge your quotes if they match the dalil or not. ومن ذلك حديث عبد الله بن الخليفة المشهور الذي يروي عن عمر عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وقد راه أبو عبد الله محمد بن عبد الواحد المقدسي في مختاره. So likewise for the hadith of Abdullah ibn al-Khalifa, famous, that is narrated from Umar from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. It has been narrated by Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahid al-Maqdisi. You see, this is the al-Maqdisi in his Mukhtar, the student of Abdul Ghani Maqdisi. وطائفة من أهل الحديث ترده لاضطرابه. It's in a group of Ahlul Hadith reject this hadith because it has contradiction in it. كما فعل ذلك أبو بكر الإسماعيلي, like Abu Bakr al-Ismaili, Ibn al-Jawzi وغيرهم. لكن أكثر أهل السنة قبلوه. But most of the Ahl Sunnah accepted it. Okay, what is this hadith of Abdullah ibn Khalifa? وفيه قال إن عرش كرسي وسع السماوات والأرض وإنه يجلس عليه, meaning Allah sits on his arsh or kursi. فما يبذل منه قدر أربع أصابع, and there is no distance even of four fingers remaining from it, meaning Allah's sitting on it, and there's no space left, even there's nothing left even for distance of 4 fingers. أو فما يبذل منه إلا قدر أربع أصبع. So he said that there's a difference of wording. وأنه لا يأتاه به أتيت الرحل الجهد براكبه. when and it makes a cracking, like the cracking of the saddle of a new saddle when it is being when the person riding it, you see. Meaning it the arch and kursi makes the cracking like the cracking of the saddle, the new saddle when it's being mounted when someone rides it. And he said the lafz al-atid, cracking, جاء في حديث جبير بن مطعم الذي رواه أبو داود في السنن. It has been narrated by Abu Dawud in his Sunan, وابن عساكر عمل فيه جزءا وجعل عمدة في ابن إسحاق. والحديث راه علماء السنة كأحمد أبو داود وغيرهما وليس فيه إلا ما له الشاهد من رواية أخرى ولفظ الأتيت قد جاء في غيره. So he said this, the word cracking has been narrated by Abu Dawud, Isakir and others, and people have criticized the narrator Ibn Ishaq, and it has been narrated by Ahmad and Abu Dawud and others. And he said there's nothing except they have witnesses from what has witnesses from other narrations. So the words in Abu Dawud, I had quoted this hadith against Mumtazul Haq, but I'm going to repeat it. It is in a book of Sunnah in Sunan Abu Dawud in the chapter Fil Jahmiya, against the Jahmiya. It's a hadith. Bab Fil Jahmiya. 4726. The Prophet said, it's a long hadith. I mean, at the end, Prophet said, woe to you, Allah is not to be sought as an intercessor with any of His creation. Allah is greater than that. Woe to you. Do you know what Allah is? His throne is above the heavens like this. And He gestured with His fingers like a dome over Him. And He creaks on account of Him as the saddle creaks on account of its rider. وَأَنَّهُ لَا يَئِتُّ بِهِ أَتِيتَ رَحْلِ بِرَاكِبٍ. Meaning it cracks. إِنَّهُ لَا يَئِتُّ بِهِ. It cracks like the cracking أَتِيتَ رَحْلِ بِرَاكِبٍ. Like the cracking of the saddle when the birakib, when the one mounting it, the rider gets on it. So this is in Abu Dawud, and he quoted against the Jahmiya. Though the is not dhaif, but he quoted it against the Jahmiya. So the meaning of cracking of the arch, the arch cracks, is an attribute of the arch, like the Habib said. It's not an attribute of Allah. This one is established in Abu Dawud. So you have to read what Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, then people can understand. You know what is tajsim, what is not tajsim, who's saying who. So this is one the narration which has the word al-atid, cracking. وحديث ابن خليفة رواه الإمام أحمد وغيره مختصرا وذكره أنه حدث به الوكيع. He said Imam Ahmad narrated it even in a summarized way, and he said that Waqi' ibn Jarrah, the student of Abu Hanifa, narrated it to him. Okay? لكن كثير ممن رواه بقوله إنهما يفضل منه إلا أربع أصابع فجعل العرش يفضل منه أربع أصابع. He said because there's a contradiction in the how people narrated it. We're going to see this contradiction. Some narrated with there's nothing remaining except 4 fingers, and some said there's nothing remaining even 4 fingers. You see? And he said Al-Qadi, واعتقد Al-Qadi وابن زاغوني. Ibn Zaghuni and Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, 2 Hanbali scholars. They said, وَنَحْوِهِمَا صِحَةَ هَذَا اللَّفْظ أَمَرُوا وَتَكَلَّمُوا عَلَى مَعْنَاهَا بِأَنَّ ذَلِكَ قَدْ لَا يَحْصُلُ عَلَيْهِ الْإِسْتِوَاء. They understood the meaning of exception. They choose this wording, that there's no place remaining on the arsh except the place of 4 fingers. You see, they took the words as exception, not the words not even 4 fingers. They said except for 4 fingers. وذكر عن ابن العايذ أنه قال هو موضع جلوس محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And one of the scholars said this is the place where the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم will sit on the arsh on Judgment Day. والحديث رواه ابن جرير الطبري في تفسيره وغيره. So the hadith is in تفسير طبري. You see Ibn Taymiyyah? No, it's Tabari, Abu Dawud, Ahmad. But these people didn't count. This is why Muhammad Yasir didn't read it. فلو لم يكن في الحديث إلا الاختلاف الروايات هذا تنفي ما أثبت هذه. ويمكن بذلك إثبات. So then he says that the correct wording is the wording there's no space remaining, even the space of 4 fingers. Not the one except 4 fingers. And he said, why? He said, إنه يفضل من عشر لا يستوي عليه عرب وهذا منع غريب ليس له قد تشاهد في شيء من الروايات بل هو يقتضي أن يكون عرش أعظم من ربي وأكبر. He said, if we said there's no space remaining except the space of 4 fingers, this will necessitate that the arsh is greater than Allah. This is false. مخالف لكتاب السنة والعقل. Opposing him. ويقتضي أيضا إنما إثمار بالتعظيم عرش الخلق وقد جعل العرش أعظم منه. You see, Allah made the arsh greater than the creation. The greatness of Allah has no comparison with the greatness of creation. So he said this meaning is fasid, that nothing remains on it except for the space of 4 fingers. فإن طريق القرآن في ذلك أن يبين عظمة الرب فإنه أعظم من كل ما يعلم عظمته ويذكر عظمة المخلوق بين الرب أعظم منها. So he said the Quran established Allah as the greatest. كما قال في حديث آخر. Then he mentioned the hadith of Abu Dawud, that the person who seeks Allah's intercession to the إِنَّا نَسْتَشْفِيُكَ بِاللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ. And the Prophet said, do you know who is Allah? So this was about the cracking of the arsh. وَفِي عَظَمَةُ الْعَرْشِ فَإِنَّ فَوْقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ مِثْلُ الْقُبَّةِ وَقَدْ بَيَنَ تَسَوُّرَ عِظْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Okay. So he carries on explaining that the other meaning cannot be right. وهذا غير يدل أن صواب من رواية النفي. He said the narration of nafi, those who negates, there's no space, even the space of 4 fingers. This one is the right. وأنه ذكر عظمة العرش وأنه مع هذا العظمة فالرب مستوٍ عليه كل لا يفضل منه قد 4 أصابع. He said that Allah is established on it, مستوٍ عليه, and there's no space remaining even for 4 fingers. And he said Allah used such expression like إن الله لا يظلم مثقال ذرة. Allah does not even harm even an atom. لا يملكون من ما يملكون من قطمير. So he said this is the meaning. There's no space remaining, even the space. ومن قال وما يفضل إلى مقدار 4 أصابع فما فهموا هذا المعنى فظنوا أنه استثناء. So he said those people, like he mentioned before, Qadi Abu Yala, they said they understood it from istisna, exception. No, وغلطوا, and they made an exception and they were mistaken. So this is what Ibn Taymiyyah quoted. He quoted this narration of this narration quoted by Imam Ahmad and others, Abu Dawud about the cracking, and Ibn Jarir in his Tafsir Tabari. And he says about the differing of the two, that the one which says nothing remains, even the space of 4 fingers, this one is the right. And he gave the reason because Allah is greater, the other will necessitate. So people who object to Ibn Taymiyyah over this, they should object to Imam Ahmad, because Imam Ahmad, sifat of sitting, this is established in the Sunnah of Imam Abdullah Ibn Ahmad in his Kitab Sunnah. He has a chapter in it. سئل عما روي عن الكرسي والجلوس ربي عز وجل عليه. He was asked about the kursi and Allah sitting above it. And he mentioned the hadith of Umar, the one they mentioned, إذا جلس تبارك وتعالى على الكرسي سمي له أتيت كأتيت رحل الجديد. When Allah will sit on the kursi, سمي له أتيت, a cracking will be heard like the cracking كأتيت رحل الجديد, like the cracking of a new saddle. Okay, so this is taken from Sheikh Samir al-Maliki, Al-Wahm wal-Iham, in which he refuted Sheikh Muhammad Said Qahtani's tahqiq of Sunnah, of Al-Wahm wal-Iham. And Sheikh Samir al-Maliki is a cousin of Muhammad ibn Alawi al-Maliki, but he's a Salafi, mashallah, great Salafi alim, and he refuted even a book against Muhammad ibn Alawi al-Maliki and his Brailvi type of belief that the Prophet ﷺ is watching and is witness of everything, and he refuted him, Samir Maliki. So Samir Maliki mentioned this narration, and he said Imam Ahmad narrated from Abdurrahman ibn Sufyan, from Abu Ishaq, from Abdullah ibn Khalifa, from Umar Maqufan, and he said Imam Ahmad narrated also from Abdullah narrated from his father that Waqi was narrating him the hadith of Israel from Abu Ishaq, from Abdullah ibn Khalifa, from Umar ibn al-Khattab. إذا جلس رب عز وجل على الكرسي, when Allah sits on the kursi, فَقْشَعَرَ رَجُلٌ سَمَّهُ أَبِي, meaning a person that my father named, he starts shaking. In the Waqi', he was in the sitting of Waqi', and he starts shaking. فغضب وقي وقال, and Waqi became angry and said أدركنا الأعمش وسفيان يحدثون بهذه الأحاديث لا ينكرونها. We have reached Al-A'mash and Sufyan, and they were narrating these hadiths and they were not denying them. You see, and this Imam Abdullah, he said in the after the chapter, he said, the chapter with his name, he was asked about what is narrated about the Kursi, Julus Rabbi Azza wa Jal. He said, after the name of the chapter, I saw my father authenticating this ahadith. Yusahi hadil ahadith. So, according to Abdullah Muhammad, his father was authenticate this hadith. And then Samir Maliki is that it's not our aqidah, the aqidah for Salaf, Ahmad, Waqi', Ahmash, and Sufyan. No, some people say, oh no, but this Abdullah is not established. I have a list in the book of Muhammad Said Qahtani of scholars who established it. He said Abu Ya'la, he quoted from him, from it. Lalika'i, he mentioned some narration from it, and which are present in the Sunnah of Abdullah as well. Bayhaqi, he says, he mentioned some narrations, and they're present in the Sunnah of Abdullah. Ibn Jawzi in Manaqib Ahmad, and he mentioned some narrations which are present in the Sunnah of Abdullah. Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned some, Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned some, Shar Tahawiyah mentioned some, Al-Dhahabi in his Ulu, he mentioned some narrations which are also present in the Sunnah of Abdullah. Safarini, many others, Hanbali scholars established the authenticity of this book, where all these scholars ignorant. Bayhaqi, Dhahabi were quoting some narrations from Hanbali, and they're present in the Sunnah of Abdullah. Lalika is mentioning some narrations, and they're present as well in the Sunnah. So we can see the authenticity of the book of Sunnah. Is proven. All the scholars established it, quoted many narrations of Ahmad from his sons, and they're present in these books. And Safarini, Ibn Qudamah, they all attributed authentically Hanbali scholars before and after, and they're more knowledgeable than these Deobandi people and their khurafat and whatever. You see, in his Mukhtar Sawaq Mursala, Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned that Qadi Abu Ya'la, he mentioned in his book في كتاب الوجهين وروايتين, he said لا يختلف أصحابنا أن الله تعالى ينزل إلى السماء الدنيا في كل ليلة حين يبقى ثلث الليل الآخر. And then he said, Qadi Abu Ya'la in his book Al-Wajhain wa Riwayatan, he says about Allah's nuzul, he says, فذهب شيخنا أبو عبد الله, meaning Ibn Hamid, إلى أنه نزول انتقال, meaning going from one moving, وقال لأن هذا الحقيقة نزول عند العرب. So you know, these scholars, Hanbalis, not Ibn Taymiyyah, they say nuzul means intiqal. وَنَذِيرٌ قَوْلُهُ فِي اسْتِوَى بِمَعنَى قَعَدَ. And this is similar to his saying of istiwa means qa'ada. So this saying is established for the Hanbali scholars. It's not Ibn Taymiyyah, but obviously these people, Ibn Ya'la and his teachers, they won't criticize them. They will criticize the Salaf. So this hadith has been narrated as well by Imam Uthman ad-Darimi in his Refutation of Bishr Marizi, and we can see in it that how many people narrated Haytham in his Majma. Okay, this has been also narrated by Imam Ahmad in Sunnah, Imam Abi Asim in his Sunnah, Ibn Jarir in his Tafsir, Daraqutni in his Sifat, Abu Shaykh in his Adama, Abu Ya'la in his Musnad, Al-Bazar, Abd ibn Humayd, Ibn Jarir, Tabarani, and many others. You see Hafidh Yaraf in his Mukhtar. So all the scholars narrated this hadith of Allah sitting on the arsh, and obviously the hadith, though Dhahabi and Sheikh Albani weakened it, but some of the scholars, they authenticated it because of the many narrations. Sheikh Samir Maliki said that because of the shawahid, many witnesses of it, some scholars declared them to be at least Hasan and strengthening each other. And Sheikh Samir al-Maliki mentioned other of this quote. You see, because this hadith, the one of Abdullah ibn Khalifa, he is majhul. Only Ibn Hibban has declared him thiqa. Ibn Kasir said after quoting this in his tafsir, laysa bithalika mashhur. And from his hearing from Umar, there is nadar. And then there is ikhtilaf, because some narrated mawqufan, some marfu'an, some mursalan. So Ibn Jarir Tabari narrated this, but for him there wasn't any problem narrating this. So Ibn Khuzaymah narrated this in Kitab Tawhid, another hadith of Asma ibn Umays, that she went to the land of Habsha with his husband Jafar, and then there was a lady who had a bag of weight on her head, and a man from Habsha who came and threw her bag, and the dust and the wheat, the floor scattered. فَسَفَتَ الرِّيحُ دَقِيقٌ, and she said, أَكِلُكَ إِلَى الْمَلِكِ, I refer you to the king, يَوْمَ يَقْعُدُ عَلَى الْكُرْسِي, the day he will sit on the kursi, فَيَخُذُ الْمَظْلُومُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِ. This is a narration of Asma bint Umays, that she heard a woman in Habsha saying this. So this is mentioned in Ulu, and he said there's a similar narration. And then even this narration in Kitab Tawhid, it has one who has tadlis and one who has ikhtilat at the end of his life. The other one of Ibn Khalifa had a majhul. This one had someone tadlis. You see, they don't have layers or big mistakes. So then Samir Maliki said that there are other narrations that Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned, Tafsir of Istiwa Qa'ada. He said that the author of Qadada, narrated by Abu Adama, Hatta idha jalas ala kursi, so Qadada has a tafsir. Abu Huraira has a tafsir. Idha nazala sama dunya jalas ala kursihi. And they have a tafsir of Ibn Abbas, Istiwa Qa'ada. And Samir Maliki said all these asanid have problems, but they strengthen each other. This is why Imam Abdullah, the son of Imam Ahmad, says that his father used to authenticate this hadith. There's other hadith of Ibn Masud, Inna Allah malal arshata, Allah filled the arshata, Anna law atitun katitu rahlad, until there is a cracking, like the cracking of the saddle. There is also Abu Shaykh in Al-Adama from the tariq of Adam ibn Hamad ibn Salama, from Ata ibn Sa'ib from Sha'bi, and according to Sheikh Samir Maliki, this is not sahih, you see. And he said all of these are shawahid, even some of them individually have a problem, but they all strengthen the marfu hadith. وَقَالُوا أَحْوَالِ, and for him, in the most case, this hadith is Hasan. And so the Salaf used this hadith in their books against the Jahmiyyah, and they believed in it. And also, they also used Imam Daraqutni saying in his poem, لا تنكروا أنه قاعد, do not hesitate that Allah is sitting, ولا تنكروا أنه يقعد, that he will make the Prophet sit on the arsh. Because the Salaf, like Ibn al-Qayyim explained in Mukhtar, he quoted from 35 of the Salaf, they used the author of Mujahid, which is authentic, to say that the Prophet will sit on the arsh of Allah on the day of judgment. Allah will make him sit, and some narrations say يُقِيدُ مَعْهُ, Allah will make him sit with him. So they say Allah making him sit with him implies Allah is sitting as well, and it is according to the Marfu hadith of Asma ibn Humais, of Umar, and all the others. And the other tafsir, like I've said, of Qatada, and the tafsir of the one I've just mentioned, of Abu Shaykh, of the saying of Sha'bi. So all this saying of the scholars of tafsir, with the two marfu from the narration, marfu narration, the saying of of Umar, and saying of Asma ibn Umais, and you have this asar of Mujahid that Allah will make him sit with him. So all of this is strengthening for the Salaf. They used to authenticate this hadith, like said by Imam Abdullah in his Sunnah, and they said, look, if Waqi' and the others, Sha'bi, Amash and Sufyan, they did not have any problem in this hadith, they accepted the meaning, then we should accept it. Even Ibn Usaymin said in his Liqab Maftu, 11 question 450, he was asked that Uthman Darimi established the meaning of istiwa as julus, and he replies that, look, in the Arabic language it comes istiwa as iqrar julus, but then after he said, if this is established from the Salaf, they said they are more knowledgeable than us. And in his Fatwa Arkan Islam, which is in English, he quoted the one of the narration Ibn Qayyim mentioned about Allah being sitting on the Arsh. And this narration is the narration of Kharija. This is the hadith of Kharija that Imam Abdullah narrated from Imam Ahmad from Sayyid Darmi from his father that Kharija, and Imam said that Jahmiya Kuffar informed the woman that they are divorced and they are not allowed to the woman. بلغوا نساءهم أنهن توالق وأنهن لا يحلون لأزواجهن ولا تعود مرضاهم. They are sick persons, are not visited. ولا تشهد جنازهم, do not witness their funerals. And he said, طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى, to the saying الرحمن على العرش استوى وليكن الاستواء إلا الجلوس. So this saying of Kharija, who is an Imam of the Salaf, though it has someone who is majhul, Sayyid ibn Sakhar, but you see, like the others has majhul, the other ikhtilat, they all support each other in the meaning. And Ibn Simin quoted from Ibn Qayyim this tafsir of Kharija. And some people said he's a liar because Ibn Ma'in said, but Ibn Ma'in had some differing about him. And the truth is, Imam Zahabi said about him that he's a great Imam. You see, he said about Kharija in his Sayyid, volume 7, page 326, Al-Imam al-Alim al-Muhaddis Shaykh al-Khurasan ma Ibrahim bin Tahman. You see? And he said, Muslim bin Yahya said, هو مستقيم حديث عندنا. ولم ننكر عن حديثه لما كان يدلس عن غياث. وكنا نعرف تلك الأحاديث. He said, we only object to him the hadith he narrated from this qiyas, and we know these ahadith. And Al-Hakim said, وفي نفس الثقة, he's ثقة by himself, يعني, meaning he's not accused. Abu Hatim said his hadith are written. Ibn Hadi said يغلط, he makes mistake, one should not rely on him. And Yahya, Abbas narrated from Yahya, he's not ثقة. So he said in conclusion, he's weak because of his weakness, but Ibn Ma'in declaring him liar is not proven. And he explained this before because Ibn Hibban said in Mazrin كان يدلس عن غياث إبراهيم وغيره يروي ما سمع منهم ما وضعوا على الثقات. He said because his problem was he used to narrate from Ghiyas Ibrahim and other fabricators, and you see he would do tadlis from them, and he would narrate sometimes fabricated this Ghiyas. So this was his problem, you see. So the narrations coming from Ibn Ma'in declaring him a liar, they differ, because in some of the narration Ibn Ma'in said laysa bi shay, some he said da'if laysa bi thiqa. And the people who said He explained it's not himself because he would do tabliz from fabricator, so he's not accused of lying. And Imam Dhahabi said about him, Imam Alim Muhaddis Sheikh Khurasan. So this is the conclusion of Jar wa Ta'dil. And Sheikh Samir Maliki said that what shows his makana and his imama kharija the one who said istiwa is not except julus, he said that he's mentioned narrations, sayings of him in Sunnah, in Lalikai, in his Sunnah mentioned from him, and many others mentioned sayings of him about the takfir of the Jahmiyyah. So they didn't consider him as a liar, contrary to what Kawthari and other people said. So all these narrations, like Ibn Taymiyyah said and Imam Ahmad, his son said, they accepted it for the Salaf. All these narrations, so many shawahid which strengthen each other for Shkhalbani and Dhahabi. These narrations are weak, but the problem is not the even if the narrations are weak, the tafsir of the Salaf, if the Salaf istiqrar is not tashbih, then likewise, I mean, julus and qu'ud, sitting, it should not be, if the Salaf gave this tafsir, then it is not tashbih. So now we will go to, there is though an authentic hadith that Sheikh Albani narrated, that one about the Mawdi al-Qadamain, page 123, that for him is authentic, is that the kursi is the, you see, al-kursi Mawdi al-Qadamain is the place of Allah's foots, وَلَهُ أَتِيتٌ كَأَتِيتُ رَحْلٍ, and it has a cracking like the cracking of the saddle. Zahabi said that the atit is not an attribute of Allah, but is an attribute of the arsh which is shaking, like his shaking of the arsh like for the death of Sa'd. And Ibn Shkhalban said, قُلْتْ إِسْنَادُ مَوْقُوف صَحِيح. Abdullah, Isnad Mawquf is Sahih. It is narrative Abu Shaykh Adama, Abu Shaykh Arsh, Rijalum Kulum Thiqat. And he said, Kawthar is weakening it, and he says, Masifat, that the Isnad has Amara ibn Umair, and Imam Bukhari mentioned in Duafa is totally false. خطأ محض. لست أدري إذا وقع ذلك عن سهو أو حمدا ذلك منه سهوا أو حمدا. He said that Kawthari tried to weaken this narration, saying, oh, there is a narrator in it, Amara ibn Umair, and Bukhari put him in Duafa. He said, Shkhalban, this resembles lying. And he said, Allama al-Yemeni showed many of his, in his book Tankil, many of such a saying. أقول هذا عمارة ابن عمر تابعي ثقة اتفاقا. He said this Amara ibn Umar is the tabi'i ثقة by agreement. The two sheikh have narrated from him. Hafiz said ثقة ثبت and such a statement cannot be hidden from Kawthari. Later هو في ضعفاء. He's not mentioned in ضعفاء of Bukhari كما زعم. إنما عمارة ibn Juwayn who is matruk. He said the narrator, Amara ibn Umar, is not in Du'afa Bukhari. How can Kawthari put him in Du'afa of Bukhari? The one in Du'afa of Bukhari is Amara ibn Juwayn. So he chose Kawthari, a narrator from the two Sahih Bukhari, which Hafiz ibn Hajar said, Thiqa Thabat, for him he will say he's weak. To deny that this narration, that the kursi is the place of the feet, and it has a cracking like the cracking. So this is to show that all these narrations of the cracking of. Now we will come to the narration in Biyan Talbis Jahmiyyah. Because what Yasir did, he said, oh look, he says Allah can settle on a mosquito net. I don't know which word he used. But Ibn Taymiyyah in his Biyan Talbis al-Jahmiyyah, he quoted the speech of Uthman Darimi. So these people should know who Uthman Darimi is. He's a student of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ishaq ibn Rahawayah. He's a student of Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ali ibn Madini, and he learned fiqh from Imam Buwaiti. That's why Ibn Subki put him in Tabaqat Shafi'iyah, and he praised him. The Dhahabi put him Tazkirah Hufaz. There's no Salaf criticizing Uthman al-Darimi. He's a thiqa, he's mentioned in Tazkiratul Hufaz. So Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned his speech. Why Yasir had problems with mentioning the full speech? It was because he didn't want the layman to see that a great Imam of the Salaf, student of Buwaiti, one of the main students of Imam Shafi'i, Imam of Imam Ahmad, the teacher of Imam Ibn Khuzaymah.
These people said. So basically, Ibn Taymiyyah, if you read the speeches that come before, first he mentioned the speech of Razi, some pages before. Razi said about the verse وَيَحْمِلُ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ. He said لو كان الخالق في العرش لكان حامل العرش حاملا لمن في الأرض يلزم احتجاج الخالق إلى المخلوق. Razi said, oh, if you see, he denied it, that he said if the Creator, Allah, was above the Arsh, it would imply that those who hold the Arsh are actually holding Allah, and this would mean that the Khaliq is in need of the makhluk. So this is what Razi said, and Ibn Taymiyyah, to refute him, he said, oh, some of the Salaf, some of the scholars, they had two opinions. I'm going to, in a summarized way. Some said he can be above, does not necessarily that those holding him, you see, are holding him, because like the birds or the air is above the roof, but it's not holding, it's not having the power to hold him. He said, but others from the Salaf said, no, Allah can give the angels the power to hold him. It's not by their own power, it's by the power given by Allah. And then he carries on, Ibn Taymiyyah, giving explanation of this view from the scholars. من أعظم الآيات دالة على قدرة وقوته وقال تعالى إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. So he's explaining the saying of the scholars that Allah can give the power to the angels to hold him. It's his power, he's a given power. Then he said قال عثمان ibn Sayyid الدارمي في نقضي على بشر مارزي. So it is Uthman ibn Sayyid al-Darimi, the great Hafiz. Even Ibn Subki Ashari, he praises him. He criticized Bishmarizi. وأعجب من هذا كل قياسك بقياس العرش ومقداره ووزنه وصغيره. He criticized Bishmari, your analogy of the arsh, and this was أنت كالسبيان علمنا الله أكبر من العرش, and you claimed that this, you make your comparison of فضلا عن العرش مثله. Then he carry on, you speak a lot and this and that. ويقالوا لهذا البقباق النفاخ, the one who speaks a lot, the idiot. إن الله عظم من كل شيء وأكبر من كل خلق لم يحملوا عرشه عظما ولا قوة ولا حملة العرش حملوه بقوتهم ولا استقالوا بعرشه ولكنهم حملوه بقدرته. He said, you idiot, you do comparisons with your analogy, you idiot, you speak a lot, baqbaq. He said, Allah is greater than the arsh. And the angels who bear the throne, they do not bear him. وَلَا حَمَلَةُ الْعَرْشِ حَمَلُوهُ بِقُوَّةٍ, they do not hold him with their strengths. وَلَا اسْتَقَالُوا بِعَرْشِ, they do not have the power on their own. وَلَكِنَّهُمْ حَمَلُوا بِقُدْرَتِهِ, but they hold him by Allah's قدرة. وَقَدْ بَلَغْنَا أَنَّهُمْ حِينَ حَمَلُوا الْعَرْشِ فَوْقَهُ الْجَبَّارِ فِي عِزَّتِهِ وَبَهَائِهِ دَعَفُوا عَنْ حَمْلِهِ وَاسْتَكَانُوا. It is narrated that when they hold the arsh, above which is the Jabbar with his strength and grandeur, they weakened, and they weakened. You need دعفوا عن حمله واستكانوا وحبثوا على ركبهم, and they fell on their knees, the angels. حق لقنوا لا حول ولا قوة إلا فاستقلوا بقدرته وإرادته. And Allah inspired them to say لا حول ولا قوة بالله, and then they had the power by His power and irada. ولولا ذلك ما استقلوا بالعرش ولا حمله. Else they would not have the power, nor the arsh would have the power. ولا سماوات ولا ولا من فيهن ولقد شاء لاستقر على ظهر بعودة واستقلت به بقدرته ولطفه ربوبيته. And he said, if Allah wanted, He would settle upon the back of a mosquito, and the mosquito would have the power by His power and generosity of His Lordship. فكيف على العرش أعظم وأكبر من سماوات والأرض. So what to say about the arsh, which is greater than the heavens and earth? وكيف تنكر يا أيها النفاج أن عرشه يقل هو العرش أكبر من. How can you say that the arsh cannot have the power while it is greater than the samawati sab wal ard sab? And we have narrated in the reference of Mumtazul Haq that the kursi compared to the creation is like a ring in a desert, and likewise the kursi compared to the arsh. So he said the arsh is greater than the heaven and the earth. So if Allah, if He wants, He can give the power to a mosquito to hold the arsh. So what about if the lowest of the creation can have this power, why cannot the biggest of the creation can have it? And he said, فَكَيْفَ تُنْكِرُ هَذَا وَأَنْتَ تَزْعُمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَنَّ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ فِي جَمِيعِ الْأَمْكِنَةِ. He said, you said that Allah is present in every place. وَالْأَرْضِ دُونَ الْعَرْشِ وَلَا الْعَظَمُ سَعَ فَتَقِلُّ الْأَرْضِ فِي دَعْوَاكَ. He said, how can the earth have the power for him to hold Allah and not the arsh? I mean, you can have the power to hold the arsh above which is Allah. وَلَا يَقِلُّ عَرْشَ الَّذِي هُوَ أَعْظَمُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And then he mentioned other narrations that the angels could not, and they said, oh Allah, how we will be able to have the power to hold your arsh. So basically, one has to know that the meaning of istiqrar, it has been quoted before by Baghawi and Ibn Abdul Bar. So settling upon is the meaning of the Salaf. If Uthman Darimi was Mujassim Ibn Taymiyyah by quoting this, then all the scholars who established the meaning is istiqrar, Ibn Abdul Bar, Baghawi, they should be declared, but these people don't, Mujassim, but these people don't do it. It is our aqidah anyway that Allah is settled above the creation. Okay? Secondly, these people have the problem because in their mind, for them settling above means like a human settling. You see, this is their problem, why they negate this sifat. Well, for us, all the creation will be in Allah's hands. All the trees on one finger, all the mountains on one. Now, Uthman Darimi, he did not compare the mosquito to Allah. You see, this boy compared the mosquito to Allah. No. He compared the strength of the mosquito, the gnat, to the strength of the angels and the strength of the arsh. He said, because these people, Razi and others said the angels, and Bishr Marizi and Razi, these people, I mean, it's the same, the dogs. That the arsh and the angels cannot have the power to hold the arsh above which Allah is settled according to His majesty, not like settling like human beings. Uthman Darimi compared the strength of the angels, who are from the greatest of the creation, and the strength of the throne, to the strength of the lower in creation, meaning the mosquito. He said if Allah can give strength to one to carry the arsh and to the angel, then He can give the power to the mosquito to carry the arsh above which Allah can be established. You see, this is the meaning. If we want to understand this is the meaning. You see, the arsh is a creation, is the biggest of it. The mosquito is the smallest of it. If settling upon the arsh, which is the biggest of the creation, is not tashbih, then for the gnat, how can you say it's tashbih? Because he's just saying that if this one Allah wanted could have the power, then what about to say about the biggest of the creation, against which the kursi is like a ring in the desert, and the kursi compared to the seven heavens is like a ring in the desert. So Uthman Darimi, the student of Imam Ahmad, Rahawa and others, none of the Salaf criticize him for this except this Jahmiyyah. They started criticizing. So if settling upon the arsh is not tajsim, so the others is a creation as well. And your problem is you just quote this piece and you say, oh, but else you should say that settling upon the arsh is tajsim as well. And then you accuse all the Salaf who said settling. But according to His Majesty, this is their problem because they can't understand Allah. I mean, they can understand Allah hearing, but not like a hearing, but Allah settling above the arsh. But not like a settling, they say, oh no, this is tajsim. And Ishaq ibn Rawa said tajsim is only if you say hearing like my hearing, hand like my hand. And people say, oh, what he's saying is if Allah will, but what if the Christian said, oh, if Allah will, He would enter the creation, He would enter the hulul in Isa. No. This one, Allah is above the creation, He's not mixing. He's only saying if Allah you see, if Allah wanted, many verses of the Quran say if Allah wanted, He would have done this. If Allah wanted, it doesn't mean Allah would do it, you see. Because, you see, if Allah wanted to take a but this is a supposition, you see. They didn't say Allah is established above back of us. He said, well, Shah. And it's not like so if Allah wanted, He would do hulul in us. This is impossible for Allah to appear in a human being. You see, this is denied for Allah in the verses of the Quran. So this one, he's not comparing the mosquito to Allah. He's comparing the mosquito to the arsh and the angels. And he's saying if the angels, you saying they can't have the power to hold the arch above which Allah has established according to the lowest of the creation, if Allah wanted, He could have given him the power to hold the arch above which Allah can be, or to hold him. But this is a supposition, and this is a saying from a great Imam of the Salaf, even in Subki, Tazkirat al-Huffaz. All the scholars praised Osman al-Darimi, but these people, they attack Darimi, but they can't attack Ibn Taymiyyah and others. Now we'll finish with his last sayings against Ibn Taymiyyah. So they said, oh, but these people, they say Allah is above the arch. In reality, and Allah is Ma'ya is in a reality, so how can be both? I've already explained this in my lecture against Mumtaz, that Allah is with us in reality, but with has different meanings according to the context. You can be with someone with help, with someone with support, with someone with knowledge, and other meanings according to the context in Arabic. These are all the haqiqah, this is all the real meaning, you see. Like you said, the moon is with me, but it is above the sky, you see. So these people, they don't understand it, that the heaven, the topic of ihata, that the 7 heavens and earth will be held on Allah's hands. So like I've said to Mumtaz, the one who's above the North Pole, he will still be pointing of Allah, because everything will be in Allah's hands. And the one in South Pole, when he points down, it will be Allah as well, you know. And Allah is with them in the real meaning, you see. Being with knowledge is the real meaning in the Arabic. It's not a metaphor. So Ibn Uthaymin wrote in Sharh Wasitiyah, page 538 in the first volume. Based on this, there is a need to harmonize between Itma'i and Hulu. The author gave this a separate section, and an explanation will soon come, Allah willing. And the explanation that there is no contradiction between Hulu and the Ma'ya, because there is nothing like Allah, and His attribute is high in nearness, near in His highness. Shaykh al-Islam cited the example of the moon. He said, if the moon is with us while walking, while it is the heavens, it is one of the smallest creatures, then how is that the creatures, the mighty sublime, cannot be with His creation, while the creatures are nothing compared to Him, and He's above the heavens? What he may, Allah have mercy upon, he said, is a refutation of the views by some people of Ta'til, who argue that the people of Sunnah say you do not allow ta'wil, yet you use ta'wil in the case of Maya. You say Maya means knowledge, hearing, seeing, power, authority, and the like. We say Maya is real according to its reality, but not in the manner that is understood by the Jahmi and the likes, that is with us in every place. And the interpretation of some of the Salaf that means knowledge and the like is an interpretation which what it implies. So he said there's no contradiction between Allah being in reality. This is the real meaning. When I say I support him, supporting someone, you see, I am with Musa, this is in the reality. This is the real meaning in Arabic. It doesn't mean I'm ikhtilat, I'm mixed with him. You see, being with sometimes means being mixed with, but sometimes it means supporting someone, it means being with knowledge, you see. And it does not negate Allah being above the arsh, and being with His knowledge or support, and others. So the Maya is upon the real meaning, and the Ulu is upon the real meaning. Then Muhammad Yasir quoted another stuff, verse, وَلِلَهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبِ فَإِنَّمَا تُوَلُّ فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. To the east and the west belong to Him. Wherever you turn, there is the wajh of Allah. I've explained in my lecture against Mumtazullah that according to Ibn Taymiyyah, wajhullah here doesn't mean, like according to Mujahid and Shafi, doesn't mean the attribute of face, but direction. And it is a wajh of Allah. Here is not the attribute. Here is the Arabic meaning of wajh, which means direction. And the context shows this if we read the verse before and there. But then I have said in the lecture of Mumtaz, some of the Salaf still said that it means, in this verse, it means the attribute of Allah, but this is in the meaning of ulu. This is like in the hadith of the one, you see, إذا قام أحدكم إلى الصلاة فلا يبصقن قبل الوجه ولا عن يمينه فإن لا قبل وجهه. You see, whenever one of you stands to pray, let him not spit in front of himself, nor to his right, for Allah is facing him. And we said this already. It is in the meaning of ulu, because all the 7 hearts are encompassing Him. So in the reality, you will be facing Allah according to this hadith in reality, and it has no contradiction. He said, it is derived from the hadith that Allah blessed and exalted is in front of the praying person, but it is composite that we know that the one who said he is in front of the praying person is also the one who said he's above the heavens. There is no contradiction between the two, since reconciling between them is possible from three perspectives. You see, if the share combined between them both statements it will never combine between two contradictory statements. Secondly, if it's possible for something to be high while it is in front of you, here is a man who faces the sun during the first part of the day. So if the sun is in front of me and it faces it during the later part of the day, it's still in front of me while it is in the heavens. If this is possible with regard to creatures, it should be more worthy with respect to the Creator without any doubt. Supposing it was not possible in the case of creature, yes, it is not impossible with regard to the Creator, as there is nothing similar to Him. This is in volume number 2, page 68. So now we'll finish because they said, oh, Ibn Qayyim Jawziyah, the Deobandi, he fabricates hadith because in his Ijtima' Juyush al-Islamiyah, he mentioned a hadith, and by mistake he attributed some wordings to hadith in Imam Ahmad, while this hadith is not in Imam Ahmad. You see, he said in his Ijtima' Juyush al-Islamiyah, وفي مسند إمام محمد أنا حديث ابن عباس قصة الشفاعة حديث طويل الحديث بطول مرفوعا وفيه فأتى ربي عز وجل فأجد على كرسيه وسريره جالسا. So he said in the hadith of Shafa and Musnad Ahmad, there is the marfu, there are the words that I will find Allah, you see one day when I will do Shafa, sitting on his kursihi, jalisan, or saririhi jalisan. And this wording is not in Musnad Ahmad. Shaykh Albani said, I mean the one who done Takhrij Fawaz Zumarli said, قال Albani في مختصر ولو page 93 ليست هذه زيادة عند أحمد ولا عند غيره فأظنه مصحفا ولا أعلم من جلوس ربي تعالى حديثا ثابتا. So he said maybe it is a mushafa, meaning it is based on a false manuscript, on a mistake, on a copyist. Now these people, they say, oh, these Salafis or these Ibn Qayyim Jawziyah fabricating hadith. Look, a scholar who quotes a hadith in a book, which any attributes to a book, and we don't find it in the manuscript, it does not systematically mean that the author, a great wali, according to Mullah al-Qari, it does not mean that he lied or he made a forgery. You see, this is you entering into people's niyat. He made a mistake. Maybe he copied from a defective manuscript. I mean, if I was to mention how many scholars attribute hadith to books with words that don't exist in the books, it would take me hours. You see, I will give links below these lectures to an article on the hadith of Hidayah, 10 examples in the book Hanafi Fiqh of Hidayah. There are many hadiths, some of them are not found. Some of them are words in the Sunan or Sahih Muslim with words added to it, and the words added are suiting the Hanafi Fiqh. Would they say Marghinani, the author of Hidayah, lied? Maybe he relied on fake manuscripts or other Hanafis who lied and he didn't know. But these people know. Fabrication. Okay, fabrication. The books of Ghazali, Juwayni, I'm not mentioning the books of fiqh, and the book of Usul al-Fiqh, the book of Taftazani Shartodi, which attributes a hadith to Sahih Bukhari, which is not in it. The hadith, lots of hadiths will be quoted after me to you. Check them with the Kitab and with the Quran, and if they oppose them, reject them. This hadith, the Taftazani said it's in Bukhari. It's not in Bukhari. Do we say Taftazani is a liar? No, it's a mistake. You see, he might have find some copies of some scholars who attributed this or some fake manuscript. The Deobandis and the Tahrif of the Nusus, I've got an article on it. Read it. About the verse of the Quran. Surah Nisa, verse 59. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر. So this verse, he said, oh you people, obey Allah, obey the messenger and people of authority. If you differ in anything, refer to Allah and His messenger if you believe in the last day. This verse Muhammad Hussain Batalvi, main student of Mian Nazir Hussain Delvi, challenged the people of Taqlidiyya Hanafis. He said, look, the verse, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ, is clear that when you differ in any matter, you should refer to Allah and His Prophet, meaning to the Kitab and Sunnah. And he challenged the Deobandis to, he had 10 questions challenging them to give any dalil that in matters of dispute one has to refer to scholars or ulul amr. Mahmudul Hasan Deobandi in his book Ida ul Adilla, he refuted Muhammad Hassan Batalvi, and he said, the verse you brought, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِن كُنتُمْ تُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. He said, but there's another verse in the Quran. This verse is فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ. I have shown scans on my article Tahrif al-Nusus from the book. This verse does not exist in the Quran. And when Mahmud Hassan Deobandi wrote this book, he was 30 years old. He was teaching Sunan Tirmizi. How could he not know this? And Qasim Nanudwi would usually read his books. He had Qasim Nanudwi's sons editing the book, publishing it. This book was published with this addition. This verse doesn't exist in the Quran. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُمْ. No, this verse doesn't exist. The other verse is أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولِهِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُم. Then it carries on فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ. But the verse of if you differ, refer to Allah and His Messenger, people of it doesn't exist in the Quran. It is a tahrif of the Quran. And he was a teacher of Sunan Tirmizi. At the age of 30, he wrote this. The book was published. 30 years after the second edition came, and he still had this tahrif. And long after they changed it, and they replaced this this fake verse, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُمْ, to the verse أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولِهِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُمْ. Well, the verse have nothing to do. So why Mahmud Hassan Deobandi brought this verse? This verse was not what Muhammad Hassan Batalvi challenged him for. He challenged him to bring a verse about when the scholars dispute, bring me a dalil for it. So they changed it, and they said in a magazine for Qaro, it was a mistake. It was a sahaf from Mahmud Hassan. He was 30 years old. He was not Sheikhul Hind at this time. But at the second publication in 30 years, Mahmud Hassan was 60 years old. He was Sheikhul Hind at this time. And he still came, second edition still came with a fake verse. I've got Master Amino Karvi. He brought the verse, he did tahrif of it. He added some words to it, and he said, hold your prayer while you pray. Well, even I've shown in the article Mufti Shafi Isman, he said, the verse says, hold your hands, meaning behold from fighting, and pray. When it is said to them, the disbelievers, hold your hands and pray, and he changed the verse. He's added to it, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu at the beginning, and then the translation, he did translation, neither Shabir Usmani nor Ashraf, never some translated this, hold your hand while you are praying. It's wa'aqimus salat, and after, hold your hand, and from fighting, and tahrif of the Quran, tahrif of hadith, read Musnad al-Humaydi. Habibur Rahman Azami had two nuskha Zahiriya, which established Raful Yadain, the Indian manuscript, which denied it. He just published one without mentioning even ikhtilaf and the other, while sometimes he mentions the mistakes. And the narration which establishes it, Zahiriya is ancient than the Indian manuscript. And even Abu Nu'aym al-Asbahani in his Mustakhraj on Sahih Muslim mentioned the one establishing Raful Yadain. And he said the words are of Humaydi. So the narration of Humaydi is present in other books of Salaf, but he took the wrong copy, even didn't mention difference, but this is not tahrif. Do you have good opinion? Yes, we're ready to believe it. And all the other tahrif, I mean, it's too long. But these people know they had good intentions when they added to the Quran. And what about the hadith Jabir of Nur? Ibn Arabi quoted it, oh Allah, Jabir, the first thing Allah created was the nur of your prophet. He divided it into four. Ibn Arabi was the first to quote it. Where any manuscript of it? Will you accuse you are Sheikh Akbar of lying? Qastalani Suyuti attributed to Musannaf Abdul Razak. Bring us a manuscript of Musnad Abdul Razak. Will you say Qastalani and Suyuti are fabricating hadith? This aqidah, this hadith is hadith of the batini. The Shia have similar hadith that Allah created the Prophet and his family out of light. This hadith, the Sifat Qud, I've quoted the Salaf. Daraqutni said, Innahu Allah is qa'idun, and Imam Abdullah ibn Hamd, they established Sifat Ulu. If this hadith is false, it doesn't make any difference. Because Imam Abdullah in his Sunnah established this hadith, and others quoted it. The Salaf, Darimi, and all the others established this hadith. But this one, the hadith of Nur, Sayyid Mamdou and Himyari, they took a fabricated Braillevi Nuskha and they published it. They've hidden all the defects of the Braillevi Nuskha. So a colleague of Himyari, he said to me, give me the full manuscript. He only gave him the few pages of the Braillevi had, about 40 hadiths. He said, what's the full manuscript? There was no full manuscript. The Braillevi Qadri invented these 40 hadiths. And they said, oh, it's the chapter of Imam who found this. Sometimes they said in Turkmenistan, sometimes in Afghanistan. And it has so many mistakes. So Himyari Sayyid Mamdou published this fake hadith, a fake manuscript of the Braillevis. This fake manuscript has words in it that are not Arabic. It means it has been written by a non-Arab, Ajmi, Ahsanullah, and it's not Arabic word. It has some narrators narrating from each other, Akhbarani, they have never met them. They have so many, it has been made by someone who is non-Arabic, someone who's a non-muhaddis. He doesn't even know how to fabricate hadith. And the worst of them, this hadith means, one of the hadiths in this fake manuscript says, Sayyiduna, Rasulullah. Sayyiduna, in which hadith the Salaf used the word Sayyiduna? It is an Indian who fabricated this hadith. And it has other hadith, haqa'iq, and words which the Salaf, it doesn't exist in the words of the Prophet, some haqa'iq, and this is still of the Sufis and others. And worse, this fake manuscript has some words taken from a Dalail Khairat of Jazuli, word for word. Jazuli, when he made his poem, he never said I took from Musannaf Abdul Razak. But there's so many quotes. The one who makes this manuscript, the Indian fabricator, he took from an exact word from Dalail Khairat. But these muhaddis, Himyari and Sayyid Mamdou, they presented this work. Oh yeah, we found the hadith Abdul Razak. All these lies in this manuscript, fake fabricated Braillevi Qadiri fabrication. Himyari and Sayyid Mamdou published it after the scholars exposed its fabrication. It has Ajmi word, non-Arabic words, it has words from Dalail Khairat, it has even the fake hadith that the Prophet did not have a shadow. In Kitab al-Iman, oh, it doesn't look like Braillevi fabrication. No. Sayyid Mamdou, after Sayyid Mamdou said, oh, I introduced the book, but I never said it is Sahih. My teacher, Ahmad ibn Mohammad Ghumari, said it is weak. And what is shameful in this hadith, you can read, I will put a link to it below on this article. Read this article of Sheikh Tuqla, who exposed Himyari Sayyid Mamdou. He has some Indian Alul Hadith teacher, Sheikh Raisnas, be very good, mashallah. Alul Hadith Salafi, Muhaqqiq, Sheikh Tuqla. When he wrote, my article in Refutation of Sayyid Mamdou and this fake Nuskha, I will give a link to it. Read it. If you read the full hadith of Jabir, it created in 4 slides, this slide, and then this slide traversed all, 20 stations of the Sufi, the maqam of Haiba, the maqam of this, the maqam of that. These stations, the station of Sufis. This is why Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Siddiq al-Khumari, who's a Shazili Sufi, say, if you read the words, you see it's a fabricated hadith. These terminologies of Sufis are late Sufis, the Prophet could not use them. But for them, Qastalani Suyuti, no, Abdul Razak narrated, where's the manuscript? No, they're not liars, they're mistaken. Ashraf Ali Thanvi, Nashr al-Taib. Page 6. पहली रिवायत अब्दुल अपनी सनद के साथ हजरत जाबिर इब्न अंसारी से रिवायत करते कि मैंने कहा मेरे माँ बाप आप पर फिदा हूँ मुझे खबर दीजिए कि सब अशया से पहले अल्लाह ने कौन सी चीज़ पैदा की आपने फरमाया मेरे अल्लाह ने तमाम अशया से पहले तेरे नबी की नूर से अपने नूर से पैदा किया ये नाम उस माना कि नूर इलाही से इसका माना था कि बल्कि अपने नूर के फैज़ से meaning from the emanation of his नूर okay बातिनी creed emanation फिर वो तो कुदरत इलाही से जहाँ तला को मज़ूआ किया उस कुदरत ना लो थी ना कलम था ना बहशत था ना दोज़ख था ना फरिश्ता था ना आसमान था ना ज़मीन था ना सूरज था ना चाँद था ना जिन था ना इंसान था फिर पैदा किया तो उसके नूर से 4 हिस्से किए एक हिस्से से कलम किया दूसरे हिस्से से लो किया हशर किया fairy tales. That Allah divided this light into 4 pieces and this and that, and this is narrated of the Razak. Where is the manuscript of the Razak? You see, Ibn Qayyim, forgery. While forgery, it might be like Sheikh Albani said, it might be a kufr, tasif, and wrong narration. But no forgery. But this, no forgery. This is tasawwuf. This is Qastalani, Ibn Arabi. No, he can't lie. This one that the scholars declare kafir, dajjal, shaitan, akfarul kafirin, ala Bukhari, Sa'at Aftazani, and Mullah Ali Qari, the greatest kafir that cursed him. But no, he can't lie. But the lies is only for the Salafis. Na'uzubillah, alhamdulillah. I hope, inshallah, to have shed enough light on the creed of the Salaf and warn against the creed of the Batini and Sufi and the Jahmiya. وأقول قولي هذا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد